Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Love Cosma and thank you for returning. I know it's been a long time since we've had a second to sit and talk about our journey of self-discovery and life improvement. I've actually been doing quite a bit. Oops, give me 1 second. I'm sorry to take this out because I don't want that to ruin the audio in any way. Okay, yeah, it's been a while since we've been able to sit and talk together. A lot has happened since my last video on Libra. Or actually, I think my last video was on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which is a very Scorpio-like topic having to do with magic and reincarnation and death and secrets. So today we're going to be picking back up with Scorpio, which is a sign that is very near and dear to my heart. I am surrounded by many people with Scorpio placements, and I myself have a fair amount of Scorpio placements. So it's something that I feel like I am very personally close to, and I have ability to kind of speak about it with a little bit of authority. So thank you for joining me. Like and subscribe if you've missed me and you want to show some support for the channel. Otherwise, let's jump into our discussion of Scorpio. I would like to first, actually, before I jump into Scorpio, I just want to let you know something crazy that happened to me since we last saw each other. About a few days before Christmas, I was sitting down with my children to draw in coloring, or to color in coloring books, Christmas coloring books. And my son, with a fine tip marker in hand, flailed his arms out and stabbed me in the left eye. And it really hurt. And I had to go to the ER. Thought I was going to lose my eye. It was pretty dramatic. And the whole time I really was just protecting my son because it was a mistake. And obviously when something like that happens, people want some to blame, something or someone to blame, but he wasn't to blame. He is the cause, but he wasn't to blame because he's just a 2-year-old who was excited to end a long and fruitful day with coloring and coloring books with Papa. So luckily, I, as you can see, still have my left eye. It was just a ruptured cornea, which hurt like hell, but is healed mostly now. I do need to visit the optometrist again because I think I need glasses now, because I just noticed last night that although I don't have any pain and I generally can see, my left eye is actually extremely, still not 100% when it comes to the vision. So I'm wondering if I might need glasses or a corrective lens for that eye or something. But as you can see, I still have both of my eyes. I'm very grateful, and I'm happy that that was all that came from it. And yeah, moving on with life. Just, that was an amazing experience for me to have gone through something like that and still made it out the other side. And of course, I'm reminded of the Greek or the Egyptian god Horus, who lost his eye briefly through his battle with Set, but regained it using with help from Hathor and Thoth, depending on the story that you listen to. So yeah, no, it was a really great experience, and I'm glad to be back to be able to deliver the message about Scorpio. So moving into our actual discussion of Scorpio, which is a very dark and mysterious almost sign. Scorpio corresponds with death and rebirth, regeneration and healing, transformation. So Scorpios, so people with heavy Scorpio placements, or will all usually be very acquainted with the darker side of life, the more grim aspects of life. Scorpio is actually symbolized after, or it's the, so you have 3 different sort of glyphs for Scorpio. One being the snake, you also have the scorpion, and you also have the phoenix. Also the eagle. So all of these animals are associated with Scorpio. The scorpion comes from the story of Orion in Greek mythology, where Artemis sent the scorpion to kill Orion after she became displeased with him in some way. And both Orion and the scorpion were made into a mythology. And so the scorpion was there to kill Orion, and that highlights the destructive nature of Scorpios. So Scorpios are classically ruled by Mars, and in modern astrology, it's ruled by Pluto since Pluto's discovery. And I think just the 1900s, Pluto was um, discovered and became corresponding to Scorpio. So let's look at Scorpio and their destructive nature. This destructive nature comes from their ability to rebuild and transform. So when you think of scorpions, think of the ability to destroy things so that better things can come in their stead. So Scorpio represents death as well as resurrection and regeneration. So when you think of Scorpios, think of uh, a very powerful sign. And that can almost be to Scorpio's detriment. Scorpio can be a sign that is obsessed with power and obsessed with displaying their power almost in a cruel or even overly powerful demonstration. So think of big things coming in small packages when you think of Scorpio, and that saying has many different interpretations because Pluto is the smallest planet. It's been demoted as a planet many times and promoted and demoted many times, probably throughout history. So Pluto is that hidden planet. The planet Pluto in Roman mythology ruled the underworld. So Pluto is the ruler of the underworld. And that ties back to what I mentioned about Pluto being very familiar with like the darker aspects of reality, envy, greed, death, destruction, jealousy, just all of these darker human emotions kind of come to the forefront with Scorpio. Scorpio is meant to have these emotions so that it can teach us all how to transmute them and transform these emotions. So Scorpio then becomes one of the best healers in the zodiac because they are born with these darker aspects of human the human experience. They're born into these darker aspects, so they are born with them, and they learn to transform them throughout their life. So that's what you can think of when you think of Scorpio. Scorpio deals with a place in your life where you have a lot of power, but that you might also have some area where you might have these darker emotions and these darker aspects of humanity around that area as well. So ultimately, when it comes to scorpion-like energy, it's meant to be transformed. So when you think of Scorpios, you have the snake, you have the scorpion, and you have the eagle or the phoenix. So all of these signs represent an aspect of the scorpion that can be transformed. So the snake and you have the snake, which it sheds its skin and it transforms all the time. You have the scorpion, which has a very tough exterior like an armor, and it has pinchers and a stinger. So you have a very powerful and threatening sign, but I'm sure that just like snake venom and scorpion venom can be used as medicine in the correct situation. So both have the power to destroy as well as heal. So this is the common theme when it comes to Scorpio, the ability to transform, the ability to destroy as well as rebuild. So a funny way and not so funny, a really dark way that I like to think of Scorpio is as the slave master, right? The slave master who doesn't like doing things themselves, but makes others around them do it for them. So it's Scorpios have the ability to be a great leader because they know how to tell others, delegate tasks. So whether they overuse force, so remember I said that Scorpio is also related to the overexertion of power, over display. So think of slave masters and whipping their servants and making sure that the servant has a fear and has the slave master has power over the servant. So that's a really grim and dark way to think of Scorpio, but it is a good way because Scorpios have the ability to bring out of their servant things that the servant didn't think they had within them by forcing them to do things that are challenging and do things that force a lot of transformation and growth. The slave master is actually helping the servant in a way, especially if they're not overexerting their power. So if Scorpios can learn one thing from this video, is to not overexert your power. You're already perceived to be very powerful. So it's up to you to actually use that power in the right way. And you don't have to have this insecurity or this sort of like, if you think of Scorpio, think of the short man syndrome. If you've ever heard of the short man syndrome, it's when maybe people who are a little bit shorter in height, and we're not height shaming anyone here. I'm just using this as a metaphor, but people who possibly, and you think of Napoleon, a person who was kind of like short, but known as a very powerful and, threatening, infamous leader because of his overexertions in power. So think of Pluto being demoted as a planet, and it has to prove that it actually is just as powerful as the other planets, just as powerful as the largest planet, Jupiter. That's what Scorpio is trying to, you need to look out for, Scorpio, because you're already seen as powerful. That insecurity comes from yourself, and maybe feelings of powerlessness, feelings of being demoted and being, maybe crucified in this life for maybe your perspective, which is a darker perspective, a perspective that is not all fun and games. It's not all sunshine and rainbows for the first time in the zodiac since Aries. For the first time, I think we're to a sign that's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's acquainted with the darker aspects: narcissism, greed, envy, overexertions of power in general. So Scorpio rules over the 8th house, which has to do with these things. But however, the 8th house has to do with death, transformation, growth. Marriage is represented by the 8th house. So the power that is acquired through the synthesis of two people, that is marriage, and two becoming one, and that you gain power from that partnership, which is marriage. So even though Libra, the 7th house or the 7th sign, rules partnership and love and attraction, it's not until you're married that becomes a new person and a new entity that is even more powerful than those two separate entities. So marriage takes a lot of sacrifice. Marriage can be ugly at times. You learn the true dark aspects of love when you get to marriage. In that 8th house, the marriage is challenged. So in that way, Scorpio can be known as the challenger. And one of the first challengers, because you have Aries, which is the first challenger, ruled by Mars as well. But Scorpio is the actual nemesis, the enemy, known enemies, I think, is 8th house and Scorpio. So you have the actual nemesis, the actual challenger in your life that is meant to force regrowth and transformation on you in this lifetime. That's the Scorpio energy in your life. It's forcing transformation through overexertions of power and intense emotional transformation and experiences. So remember, even though Pluto is the smallest planet, it packs a punch. It is the planet of power, intensity, um, death, transformation, all of those things that are very powerful in your life, things that are out of your control. That's Scorpio. You know, things that you need to grow, the dark side of reality that needs to be integrated before you can be whole and before you can actually say that you've conquered the night and you've conquered your darker self. That's Scorpio energy. Drugs, sex, rock and roll. Scorpio rules sex. Scorpio rules the sexual organs. So Scorpios are often seen as very seductive and sexy people. And that comes from the fact that they're acquainted with the dark side of life. Think of that bad boy image, that bad girl image. That Scorpio, secrecy, the snake in the Garden of Eden. Scorpio, magic, power and the knowledge of magic and regeneration, reincarnation. Scorpio is seen as the most powerful sign to be born under in some schools of astrology. And that goes to show you Scorpio is a very powerful sign. So you're actually really blessed to have Scorpio placements when you have Scorpio placements, even though it may not seem like it, because Scorpio is a very intense energy to experience and encounter. And it's an energy that requires a huge amount of compassion and love. But once you've conquered these darker aspects, think of Scorpio as almost like smoke and mirrors, right? Like, in order for Pluto to be seen as powerful as it wants to be seen, that over demonstration of power, it kind of has to use a little bit of smoke and mirrors, a little bit of intimidation tactics. Think of those things when you think of Scorpio, but it's all harmless. Scorpio is meant to trigger transformation in yourself. You are meant to trigger transformation in Scorpio. Scorpio also represents achievement, power in this physical reality. Scorpios like money. Scorpios like to be able to display how much money they have and display their power. Remember, these are things that have to do with Scorpio. So before I exit out of here, I do want to get into my angle relationships that I usually speak about when I speak about my signs. So Scorpio is opposite the sign of Taurus, Taurus has to do with the five senses, sensual realities. Scorpios and Tauruses have that in common, a very sensual experience. Scorpios can possibly use their sensuality in seductive ways and possibly abuse their power. So remember, when I describe Taurus, I described a sign that's very ethical and that likes to do the right thing. Scorpio is kind of the opposite. They like to do the wrong things. They embrace chaos. They embrace change. They embrace the darkness. But remember, the experience of both of these signs is about the balance. Taurus isn't meant to be a goody two-shoes all the time. Scorpio isn't meant to be bad all the time. It's about a balance between the two. So when you think of Scorpio, also think of Libra, the perfected man, right? Libra is the perfected man, the Renaissance man who's into art and beauty and all of these things. So Scorpio still has that. So you'll often see Scorpios pursuing arts, pursuing things. Now, Scorpio really likes to have money. So, they're not the hopeless romantics that are just pursuing art. I think that's a little bit more in the line of Pisces, maybe even Leo. But Scorpios are often the ones who have a great admiration of these things, but they're not going to pursue these things unless it really leads to money. And therefore, Scorpios are the ones that show us how to become extremely successful in places like Hollywood. They're the cutthroat ones, right? The ones that can to make those hard decisions that need to be made in Hollywood to be on top, to be seen as the leader, to be seen as the dominant one. Scorpios like to be dominant and like to be seen as dominant, the dominant person in dynamics. So in social dynamics. So also think of Scorpios also have the ability to wait till just the right time to strike. So you have this characteristics in the snake, the scorpion, and the eagle. So when it comes to the scorpion and the snake, you're meant to transform these. There's nothing inherently wrong with scorpions or snakes, but they are bottom. They're on the bottom, right? They crawl on the ground. Snakes, they can get into trees, but eagles can fly and soar. So think of that. When you are trying to be the perfected Scorpio, don't be like the snake or the scorpion that dwell on the ground, pinch, and bite. Be like the eagle who soars as an example to others how to become free, ironically, as the slave master. But how to, what true freedom really looks like is kind of what Scorpio is showing us. So the Renaissance man, like Libra, but also ahead of you, you have Sagittarius, which is the wise elder, the one who has seen the darkness and has chosen to move beyond it. The karma creator, though, too, Sagittarius, as we will get to when we get to Sagittarius video. Sagittarius has the scorpion within them, but they use that in order to experience the real, raw reality of life. So I like to think of Scorpios, and there are many ways to think. Part twos to all of these videos coming because there's so much that goes into it. But when I think of Scorpio and to a sense Sagittarius, I think of people who is kind of like their mission or their journey in life to kind of go off path and remember Aries with that Martian energy, initiating things, initiating new beginnings. Scorpio also has that power to initiate new beginnings. And it's almost like they're meant to see just how crazy life can get. Right? They're here to really bend life's rules. And that's why Scorpio represents magic, the rules of life and the rules of reality, and how to use them to their advantage, how to avoid really bad consequences for doing really bad things. That's kind of what magic is, right? A little bit is an aspect of magic, though that's not all magic's about. But yeah, I think that really does Scorpio in a nutshell. Scorpio waits for the right time to strike, and that makes them very good at accomplishing things and making real strides in material reality. But Scorpio, remember that you're not always meant to just embrace chaos. There does need to be stability and structure and pleasantness that is interwoven into that darkness that you inherently carry. So you're the sign opposite Taurus, the goody two-shoes, and the sign after Libra, another sort of goody two-shoes a little bit, because they all have to do with the law and justice. Scorpio, you have that in you. Even though you are meant to embrace the chaos, you are meant to also embrace justice, truth, light, all of these things, and therefore you become the magician and the one who shows us how to balance these forces in the life. So you are the first one who kind of embraces these darker aspects of reality and uses it to propel you forward in life. And that's what makes you so special. That's why God loves you, even though you can make some questionable decisions, which you'll have to deal with later, either through death of others around you, death of yourself. After you die, you will learn things about your life. After others around you die, you'll learn things about life. So death brings transformation to you, Scorpio. So don't let it be your death. Let it be the death of your past self, transformation and regeneration. So, with that being said, thank you so much for joining me for my lecture on Scorpio. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you would like to hear more. And thanks so much. Happy New Year's, everyone. And I'm so happy to be able to see you all with two eyes. Bye.